Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I've got a very important report to share with you guys, and one that I'm going to ask you to listen to in its entirety, because the truth of the matter is, they want you gone. If you're a conservative, a Christian, a patriot, a Trump supporter, or a libertarian, then the Democrats and globalists are doing everything in their power to make sure you're not given any kind of platform to share your political view. And I don't say this to scare you, because that's truly not my intent, but I have read history and I do understand what happened in history's past. And I see the very same terrifying things happening now in the United States of America as I have seen in tyrannical countries. We are truly headed into turbulent times when conservatives and Christians and libertarians are forced onto alternative platforms, which is why I created Restrictive Republic. And you guys truly got to start getting over to these platforms. But that terrifies me that we even have to go and do that, because they are not only silencing us, now they're making laws and regulations and rules to keep themselves in power for a very long time. So we are headed into some very turbulent times. Let me show you a little bit of what I'm talking about, because you really need to get the overall gist of what's happening. Here's an article published by Glenn Greenwald, who is actually not on our side. He's more of a leftist, but he truly is seeing some of the corruption that is playing out today, and he's warning his own people, saying, look, if you let it happen to one side, it's going to come around. But great article by Glenn Greenwald. Censor more, threatening the First Amendment in their zeal for control over online speech. The House Democrats are getting closer and closer to the constitutional line, if they've not already crossed it, and they have already crossed it. But here's what the article says. For the third time in less than 5 months, Congress has summoned the CEOs of social media companies to appear before them with the explicit intent to pressure and coerce them to censor more from their platforms. On March 25th, the House Energy and Commerce Committee will interrogate Jack Dorsey and Zuckerberg and Google at a hearing in which they announce will focus on misinformation and disinformation plaguing online forums. Now, I'm going back. They've had this meeting, right? But the entire intent of this meeting was to attack misinformation, which is also known as censorship of speech and controlled speech. That's what they're vouching for. But it goes on to say that the committee chair, Frank Pallone, right, and the two chairs here, we have two separate Democrats here, said in a joint statement that it was important that the falsehoods about COVID-19 vaccine and debunk claims of election fraud. They argued that these online platforms have allowed misinformation to spread, intensify national crisis with real-life grim consequences for public health and safety. And the hearing is going to continue the committee's work of holding them accountable for the growing rise of misinformation and disinformation. Keep in mind, this article here, this is on the Hill. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey has fully admitted that he has a bias left-leaning. And that's an older article, but I want to bring it back up so you know it's front and center. Then I have here Breitbart. Mark Zuckerberg admits that Facebook has a clear bias dependence on activist fact checkers. And then we have here another article by Democrats. House Democrats targeting right-wing cable outlets, and they are assaulting core press freedoms. Democrats' justification for silencing their adversaries online and in media. They are spreading fake news, they said, and inciting extremism. Okay, so this is the claim from the Democratic Party. Now, let me just pause for 1 second. So far, we have Twitter admitting they're leftist, Zuckerberg admitting they're leftist. We all know that. Then we have Democrats saying you need to go and censor more, quote, misinformation. In other words, censor more of our political opponents. And then we have going forward, now the House Democrats are targeting right-wing cable outlets. Now they're being more prominent and more precise about their attacks, right? Because this is an article that happened a little after the first ones you saw. So as we go more into the year, more and more of what I've been saying has coming to pass. And now, as you guys know, if you've been watching me on Restrictive Republic, then you know I have been talking about this already. But the article goes on to say this. What the Democrats are doing here, right? Or let me show you this article, this little section here. It says the Democrats' House Committee is demanding more online censorship from social media companies, and now it has set its sight on the removal of conservative cable outlets including Fox News and, of course, OAN and Newsmax are the three they specifically target as far as coming from the Democrats. So their attack is getting more precise. But here's what it says. But what House Democrats are doing is far more insidious than what is revealed by the creepy official announcement that two senior officials, we have Anna and Jerry there, also sent letters to 7 of the largest cable providers. And again, you heard me talk about this on Restricted Republic, but these were the 7 people they sent it to. And basically they said, we want you to handle disinformation from Fox News, OAN, and Newsmax, right? Okay, I wanted to bring that back up because there's a very powerful thing happening. When Democrats can go and say to cable companies, to cable companies, we don't want you to house conservative media anymore. And they can go to Google and Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and say, we want you to censor more. They're not saying our political opposition. They're just saying things that our political opponent, like if they're anti-immigration or stuff on the election or misinformation, they said because COVID-19 has become political, let's just be honest, then here's the line that has been crossed. What they're doing is completely illegal, right? And I'm going to quote it this way. What the Democrats are doing, okay, the Constitution prohibits them from doing, right? The Constitution stops the government from dictating what information we can and can't read, right? It also prohibits the government from using their authority to coerce private actors into censoring on their behalf. Our congressional leaders are coercing cable companies, are coercing social media companies to censor their political opposition. They should be immediately removed from office, but instead, no sanctions or punishments or censures had been given to any of these Democrats, nor were their actions. Nor did anybody speak against their actions. So when I tell you I'm not trying to scare you, they want us gone, I mean it. And let me say this, there's a lot of Republicans out there who are standing for the First Amendment, not a lot, maybe like less than 10, but they're not doing anything. They're not big enough to make their voices heard. So you see, the Democrats are powerful, the Democrats are big, the Democrats control everything from social media to mainstream media to our education system to our colleges, and I'm gonna show you, and they control it all. So who loses out? The 5 congressional leaders who are out there standing for our freedoms, or the Democrats who have far more power? And if you want real information on what's going on, because I cannot say it here, I can't. That's all I'm going to say. I'm on a controlled platform. Get to restrictedrepublic.com. And just as a last minute special, for an entire year, I'm going to give it to you for $50. Use the code LOCKDOWN. That's LOCKDOWN in order to get it for $50 for an entire year. I've never offered that publicly, but you got to see these videos that are up there because Justice Knight just put out this video on the screen that you guys got to see that talks about everything I want to say here, but can't. So restrictedrepublic.com. But all that to say is there's a lot of things happening that you truly need to be aware of that we're silenced. We're silenced here. Here's another article on the Federalist.com. Biden administration prepares ways for banks to refuse service to Democrat enemies. Now, I really expanded on this over on Restricted, but basically they're abusing the powers of federal regulators. Operation Choke Point 2.0, I've already talked about this, but it would stifle bipartisanship, unity, and healing President Biden claims that he wants, right? We know that's just a joke. Among the record-breaking number of executive actions taken by Joe Biden was once related to a little-known, frightening Obama-era program called Operation Choke Point. The program, dubbed so under former attorney Holder, uses the power of the government to target legal yet left disfavored businesses like gun sellers, pawn shops, short-term money lenders, and the list goes on. Basically, the Trump administration stopped that from going any further, stopped Operation Choke Point 2.0 from going through. And Biden says, no, we're just going to continue the process and allow it to go through. And basically what it does, and I'm really summarizing here because there's a lot more to it, I'm just going to put it that way, but for sake of skimming the surface, it can lead to ways for bank to refuse service to Democrats' enemies. like your gun shops, like you're saying, oh, we can't give you that loan because, there's hazardous kind of stuff there. Do you see how, and I hate to say this, powerful the Democratic arm truly is? And that's not all. There's already Trump supporters that have been arrested. Here's Information Liberation. Feds indict a pro-Trump Twitter troll, Ricky Vaughn, who shared a meme. A meme during the 2016 election. And then there's this, and this is critical to this, very recent, just published March 3rd. And this is dailywire.com. Conservatives guaranteed to face discrimination on campus from academics who want them censored. They want them censored, and they're okay with it. Literally, they believe that that's okay. A new study, right, has found that conservative professors and graduate students are guaranteed to face discrimination, with the majority of academics supporting that discrimination simply because they disagree with conservative beliefs. And I'm libertarian for the most part. I've got conservative views as well. But here we have colleges and campuses saying, oh, it's okay to discriminate against conservative because we don't like what they believe. This is actually a thing. The study from the Center for the Study of Partnership and Ideology, conducted by the University of London, a politics professor, Eric Kaufman, also found that a third of conservative academics have been threatened with discipline for expressing their views. And that was according to the Washington Free Beacon. Now, the article goes on that Kaufman analyzed 8 surveys of graduate level professors and doctoral students, the majority of whom said they would not oppose discriminating against their right-leaning peers in some form. 10% of academics support outright canceling or firing conservative professors who express their views. Wow. The study adds a new dimension to recent stories of harassment and intimidation of conservative voices in academia. Conservatives have long been a minority in American universities, but only recently has so-called cancel culture led to a rise in what Kaufman calls the chilling effect of self-censorship. How did we even get to that level? Probably because the rhetoric that we constantly hear from the Democratic Party. Then we know things like this, which I've shared a lot. Democrat Representative Cohen warns that National Guard, mostly white males, inauguration protected by people who might want to do something. So white people might want to do something, especially if they're a Trump supporter, Then we have this, and this is the kind of stuff, literally, that should send chills down your spine. This is on LifeSite News. Frontline doctor, FBI broke down my door in a SWAT team raid of 20 men. Anyway, what she did is, to give it to you short and sweet, Dr. Simone was at the Capitol. She went into the Capitol and started using a microphone telling people about what she knows about COVID-19 in short, right? And so as a result of her going in with a megaphone, she didn't break any windows down. She didn't do any destruction. She didn't do any harm to the Capitol, anything like that. That sufficed a raid of 20 men armed to the hilt going into her home. Because she what was her crime? Going into the Capitol, that was her crime? And that's all she did. Was that right? No. However, it doesn't suffice that kind. But why was she treated that way? They didn't like what she said. Right? That's why I say America's gone. They want us gone. And now there's this, right? This is brand new, already came out, and I did a whole article on HR1. I did it on Restrictive Republic because you're not allowed to talk about that kind of stuff on YouTube. But House passes radical HR1 election bill. This election bill, and I'm just going to pause this so you guys can read over that. But basically, in my opinion, our elections are screwed if this thing goes through. I mean, really? Really? A lot of this stuff is just nuts. Like, you can't have voter ID and all that. I mean, wait, what? Why can't the state figure it out based off of the guidelines from the Constitution? Here's a mild idea. Let's do ID requirement, right? Let's have an ID, just like we have to have IDs for everything else. But look, it's not just here in the United States of America. And that scares me again because, again, I don't know if a Republican could ever again be elected with stuff like this going on. And if a Republican does get in, it'd be like your Mitt Romney types, your rhino. Meanwhile, it's not just America. I'll show you what's going on. Information, liberation, new normal. Liberal Western leaders unite to criminalize and jail their right-wing opposition. This is internationally, right? BBC, Greece, Golden Dawn. Neo-Nazi leaders guilty of running a crime gang. And so now that I believe they've declared it some kind of criminal organization there in Greece. But Golden Dawn had 18 MPs in 2012. These are people who served in the upper ranks of the government. And now they've criminalized it. Then we have Gateway Pundit. German government acts more like Gestapo as Conservative Party, AFD, is attacked and spied on. I don't think I have to do, what I want to do is just show you the news, because a lot of this news gets put out there, but they may not always put the conservative or Christian or Trump supporting title. In fact, now they are. Now they're just adding it. And now, like I always say, first Trump supporters were considered deplorable. Then we went to racist, xenophobic bigots. And then we went to white supremacist and white nationalist. And then we went on the domestic terrorist list. There's always a progress. It's never just, right? Anyhow, I can't stress that enough. But with that said, please don't forget to check out my partner at noblegoldinvestments.com. And I've shown this coin before, but right now with every approved IRA or 401k, you can get this amazing Carson City coin here. And you can see this. It's an uncirculated silver dollar. This thing is absolutely beautiful and amazing. And this comes with any approved IRA or 401k right now, but it's definitely a collector's item and a keeper. But if you haven't converted it, I want to encourage you to do so. And this is an organization that I trust and personally use. You can give them a call and talk to them at the number on the screen there, 1-877-646-5347. Let them know you heard it on Lisa Haven Show there. That's why I partner with them, because they really hold and really take to heart you, the people. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thank you again so much for tuning into the channel. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.